It's all going to zero against Bitcoin.
It's going up forever.
You're against Bitcoin, you're against freedom.
On this political football, this election cycle, I'm curious, are you advising either candidate or either campaign on crypto policy?
I'm advising everybody in the world that Bitcoin is digital capital. There's a revolution in the global capital markets, and traditional finance operates, 19% of the time for 10% of the world. That makes it a 2% solution. Bitcoin's a 100% solution. It's not partisan.
Micheal, sorry
it's just
to cut
a good
you off.
idea.
Let me just be a little bit more direct with you. Have you spoken with either Vice President Kamala Harris or former President Trump specifically?
I speak with both Democrats and Republicans.
Have you spoken to either of them in the past, say, month?
Yeah, I don't share my conversations that I have in private and confidence with anyone in the world.
Okay, fair enough. Let's say that you were on a hypothetical phone call with either of them. What would you be telling them that your dream is for crypto policy moving forward?
The future is digital, right? There's a race to own cyberspace. That being the case, empires are built on productive property, and they're defended by firepower, naval power, air power, nuclear power, and digital power. Bitcoin's digital power. You want Bitcoin, you want to own cyberspace, you want the most digital power, just like you want nuclear power, air power, and space power. It's a good investment. It's like buying Alaska or like the Louisiana Purchase, and it's also essential to national security.
Which candidate is better for crypto?
I think that, again, crypto is...
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Simply Bitcoin. I am Optimus Fields, and we got a great show for you guys today. As you can tell, Micheal Saylor made an appearance on Yahoo Finance. He was kind of getting grilled, but he did a very good job. I would say maybe a good political job of ignoring the questions. And I am going to finish this clip for you guys because there's the second part of the clip we're going to cover in the numbers where Saylor, of course, in the Giga Chad way that he's able to do it, just explains what everyone is asking right now. There's a lot of new people coming into the space. We are obviously getting into the political discussion. We're breaking the echo chamber and getting into the mainstream consciousness. And everyone always asks the same thing. Oh, Bitcoin's too volatile. Why do we even need Bitcoin? So I want to play that Saylor clip, the rest of the Saylor clip on today's show, so we can continue to get more people to understand exactly what is going on in the Bitcoin space and how us Bitcoiners don't care about volatility. Volatility means that you're alive. Volatility means that there's an opportunity here. And once you're a Bitcoiner, the price fluctuations literally mean nothing. It just means that you get Bitcoin on a discount. And if you like Bitcoin at 70K, who doesn't love it at 50K? It's just cheaper sats for all of us here. And there is some funny stuff in there where Saylor basically says the same stuff that all of us bull-hearted Bitcoiners have been saying for a long time, that we love buying the Bitcoin tops. It's a rite of passage here. So Saylor just doing what he does best when he gets on the legacy media and just kills it, just absolutely destroys the echo chamber and spreads the message to the people that still watch the corporate press, which is basically our parents, or at least my parents, and the boomer class out there, the older generation. Again, I always reference the recent polls going out there, a recent report that most people that are watching corporate television, or at least the news channel, are in their 60+ years. And so most of us young people are getting our news from Twitter or social media. We get our news in memes, but there's still people that watch corporate press, that watch national television, and they also need to get that signal. And now they're getting it in ways that make sense to them. And that's why I want to finish that clip out today, because today's show is going to be very Saylor heavy, because Saylor is basically on the vanguard. He's the one showing the corporate world what they should be doing and how to do it, and absolutely just gobbling up all the sats. I got all the numbers of all of Saylor's convertible notes and the billions of dollars he's got in Bitcoin and everyone that's followed after. So in the news, I'm not only just going to cover Saylor's MicroStrategy strategy in his own words. We got a clip of him talking about it. but also all the recent developments and the new companies that are following him. And this morning, the breaking news of this morning was that Marathon Digital or Marathon Holding is going to follow the same playbook as MicroStrategy. So now we see a public miner is going to follow the MicroStrategy strategy and try to get as much Bitcoin as possible. So you're seeing that the corporate Bitcoin play that Saylor has unleashed into the world is starting to catch on. And also all of the news that we've been covering recently about, you know, as much as we don't like the banks out there, all the banks are now unleashing their financial advisors on Bitcoin. We got some new news coming out that I think kind of slept under the radar on our show, that even Wells Fargo is now going into the ETF game. So as much as us Bitcoiners believe that ETFs is paper Bitcoin, that you need to be buying Bitcoin directly, do not get stuck holding the bag on a paper ETF when they rug pull you. You need to be buying spot Bitcoin, but you're seeing that the signal is spreading and more people are going to wake up, and it's slowly happening in real time. And so we cover that on the show constantly. Anyways, enough of the preface. I do want to bring on my co-host. Of course, you guys know him, Chris Alamo, one of our good friends and one of the Simply Bitcoin pinch hitters coming on the show today. So Chris really makes me look good on the show every time we do this together. So it's good to have you, Chris. How you doing this morning?
Doing well, Opti. Always a pleasure to be back here.
Let's go. And also, we got special guests. You guys loved them when they came on the show. I think it was about a month ago. We got Knut Svanholm and Luke DeWolf from the previously, what was it? Man, I'm blanking on it. The Freedom Footprint Show, rebranded to the Bitcoin Infinity Show. So we got some fellow content creators on the show, and just, I would say, some of the best thinkers in Bitcoin. I really love your perspectives on Bitcoin and this whole movement that we're seeing play out in real time. So I'll start with Luke. Luke, how you doing this morning? How's everything going?
I'm fantastic, Opti. Thanks for having us. And yeah, super excited. We're super busy over here. Lots of exciting things going on. Got our book coming out soon. So excited to talk about that.
Yes, sir. We're definitely going to talk about that today. All right, Knut, how you doing?
Fantastic. I mean, I can just echo what Luke said. We're having a lot on our plates, but we enjoy every second of it, and we're happy with the new book. And we hope.
Let's go. Yeah, plug it real quick. Give people a sneak peek, and then we'll really break it down in the culture.
We made a book together that we've been writing for about half a year, and it's called Bitcoin: The Inverse of Clown World. I don't know if you can see that here. And it's about how you change the world by changing yourself, first and foremost. It starts with this tacky Michael Jackson quote: if you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make a change. And it's, yeah, our views on Bitcoin and the future and what you can do to participate and actually be the change that you want to see in the world. That's the TLDR on the book, I guess.
Love it. Hey, any chance we can get, sneak in a Michael Jackson quote on the show, I am okay with that. So love it. All right, guys. So we got a big show planned for you guys, jam-packed. But before we do that, of course, I do have to keep the lights on here. And of course, we're talking about Bitcoin. Well, the best place to stack sats. Make sure you are setting up your automatic self-custody by default platform on Bitcoin. Well, buy real Bitcoin, guys. This is the message we tell you guys constantly. Do not buy ETFs, buy spot Bitcoin, get it directly, and support Bitcoin only companies that are ensuring that they don't hold your Bitcoin so that you don't ever have the possibility of getting rug pulled. And that is bitcoinwell.com. And of course, you can use the promo code simplybtc. And before I move on, of course, get your Lightning wallets out. When you get into Bitcoin Well, go into their dashboards and you can hit the My Rewards here, redeem, and then you can redeem some sats. You can win up to 1 million sats. So if you guys win the 1 million sats today, I'm going to be really butthurt, but we'll see. I'll leave this up for a second. Scan the QR code, pull out your Lightning wallet. There we go. Sats for you guys. First come, first serve. And let's get on to the show.
Bitcoin numbers.
That came in quick. All right, guys, you already know the deal. Make sure you are not leaving your seed phrase on a piece of paper in your sock drawer. Make sure your grandchildren don't ask you, Grandpa Paul, why are we broke? Why don't we have generational wealth? Well, you know, my grandchildren, it's because my dog ate my seed phrase. No, get it on titanium. Make sure you are blasting your seed, stamping your seed into titanium, and protecting your generational wealth for the long haul. All right, guys, let's get into the numbers for today. You already know the deal. I did kind of, eliminate some of the numbers because I don't think most people care about most of the numbers in the Bitcoin time chain. They probably just care about the price and the block height as far as I'm concerned. So the Bitcoin price today, allegedly, in the moment right now, is $59,810,000 per Bitcoin, which means the sats per dollar, aka how much your dollar is worth in Bitcoin, aka how much Bitcoin you can buy for a single dollar. It's currently at 1,672 sats per dollar. The block height, which might be one of the most important numbers in Bitcoin, TikTok next block. It's almost like Bitcoin is working exactly as designed. We are at block height of 856,484, and the market cap of the Bitcoin market in fiat terms is $1.18 trillion. We're a little under silver right now. We got to pump those numbers up. And then the Bitcoin versus gold market cap, it actually raised a little bit this morning. So I'm guessing the price was lower. I didn't check the price this morning, but we're currently at 7.04% of the total gold market cap. So still a lot of room to run in the hard money game. All right, guys. So as I was saying in the beginning of the show, Micheal Saylor went on Yahoo Finance, absolutely did an incredible interview here. And I played you the first part. So I'm literally starting from where you saw in the beginning of the show to where we are now. But I wanted to continue this video in the numbers because Saylor, in the fashion of Saylor, is just able to explain what is going on in the Bitcoin space, why financial advisors are just ill-advised here. And basically, he can't believe why people look at Bitcoin and are like, oh no, it's too volatile. I don't want that volatility. Like, you know, Bitcoin's the best performing asset ever for the last 15 years, or at least 10 years. And yet people are still on the sidelines like, no, it's too volatile for me. I don't want none of that. I'm really reminded right now of what's the Dewey, what's that movie? Anyways, like, you don't want none of this, Dewey. You don't want none of this, best performing asset in the world, aka Bitcoin. So let's play this out. I think, let me see. I do have it at 1.25, but it's not too fast for you guys. Listen to this. It explains exactly what's going on in only the way that Micheal Saylor can.
I'm not going to comment on anything political at this point. I'm going to say it's just a good idea to support digital assets and digital capital for any nation state, any political party, any politician. It will be a factor in November in the elections, I have no doubt. I won't try to get you to comment on anything specifically political, Micheal, but I am interested to get your take on this, which is that it does seem like at this moment that crypto is breaking hard along ideological lines. You know, I mean, Trump certainly, you see him speaking at the Bitcoin conference, talks about making Bitcoin great again. Is that good for crypto, or long term, do you think? Do you really need friends on both sides of the political aisle? I think Bitcoin is digital capital, right? The world's going to be remade. There's a digital transformation in finance taking place. Everybody on Wall Street understands it. Everybody on Capitol Hill understands it. Everybody on Main Street understands it. It's like electricity or fire or the internet. I can't imagine that a nation state, a company, a government, or any particular family even is going to be successful without embracing technology. I got an investor psychology question for you, Micheal, too. It just interests me. I'm curious how you kind of stay calm and cool and collected and committed to Bitcoin, even when you have these sell-offs, because that's tough for some people, Micheal. They see their investment get banged up, and then oftentimes the first instinct is, you get nervous. You want to slam the sell button. How do you navigate that? How do you actually keep your emotions in check? Well, first of all, Bitcoin's been appreciating at 55% a year for the past 4 years. Bonds are depreciating 5% a year. The S&P is appreciating at about 13% a year. It's amazing to me that people would rather have a 20% ARR with 20 vol than 55 ARR with 55 vol. But if you think about it, it's pretty obvious you want the 50% return, not the 20% return. So if you're going to embrace the future, embrace digital transformation, it's going to be more volatile, it's going to be higher performance, but that's the future. So I don't get upset because I know we're winning and Bitcoin's winning. It's pretty obvious to anyone that can chart the thing that there's a right answer and there's a wrong answer.
Micheal, safe to assume you bought the dip this week?
we're buying all the time. We're buying every quarter. We're buying the lows, the mids, the highs. I'll be buying the top forever because I'm expecting Bitcoin will continue to appreciate as digital capital. I think physical capital, real estate capital, financial capital, people are going to sell those things and they're going to move their money into digital capital. And it's going to be a trend for a long, long time to come.
Absolutely love it. As Saylor said, and we literally said this on the show all the time, kind of trolling, like we will buy the top forever because it's only a generational timestamp of where the Bitcoin price is. One of my friends always said that, Weinicus, he's been on the show a bunch of times. He helps us on the back end. We've been saying that for a long time, kind of like low-key trolling that, like we will buy the tops forever because, hey, Bitcoin dies, 200 times in its lifetime, and yet it always comes back from the grave. So I find it not only hilarious, but just further of the Bitcoin memes in the world that Saylor is finally saying the same stuff that us bull-hearted Bitcoiners say on Twitter. He's like, I will buy the top forever. And I really loved how he's able to frame the volatility question because I have the same thinking. Like I'm super frustrated at times with people. They're like, oh, I love Bitcoin, but it's too volatile for me. And it's like, yeah, it's volatile to the upside. And as Saylor was saying, it's like, okay, you can invest in something that'll get you 20% gains, or you invest in something that year over year will get you 55% gains. It's a no-brainer to us Bitcoiners. Like it's a no-brainer to someone that sees where the world is going. And then they're like, yeah, actually, it's too risky for me. I don't like those gains. I don't like 50% returns on my money. And it's like, are you seeing the same field that I am? Because it's a no-brainer as a Bitcoiner that, yes, Bitcoin is the best performing horse in the race. It's the best performing asset in the last 10 years. And you might want to get some just in case it catches on. And now you're seeing that the signal is catching on and more people are waking up to this very simple idea that every single person, every single nation state, every single corporation will need to have a Bitcoin strategy. And people are finally seeing Saylor's MicroStrategy strategy for the success that it is. And you just love to see it, guys. We've been on the front lines of this for a long time. So I'm going to pass it over to Chris because he makes my 80 IQ take sound a lot better. So Chris, what was your thoughts hearing Saylor just completely destroy the Yahoo Finance FUD and just their pure confusion of what's going on in the Bitcoin space? We are still early.
Yeah, I think I want to go back to one of our tweets. Our boy Ropium on Twitter, so Opti and I's good friend, he had a tweet recently say Wall Street dudes lose 30% of their net worth in a day, literally jump off the 40th floor of their building. Crypto dudes lose 30% of their net worth in a day, update profile picture to have McDonald's hat and shit post in the group chat and say we're buying more. So I think there's a dichotomy. Saylor kind of hit the nail on the head that some people would rather have an asset that goes up 20% a year, but very consistently versus Bitcoin goes up 50% or more in a year. And it's way more volatile. So I think the winning trade is obviously Bitcoin.
Yeah. And I mean, just very simple, investing heuristics, which I think could be life heuristics. Like you have to risk it for the biscuit. And this is why all of us Bitcoiners, I think have a very high risk tolerance. It's like we see where it's going. There is no roadmap for where we're going with Bitcoin, but we see the future and we're like, hey, man, this is the best bet. And especially all the things we've been covering about the traditional financial world. It's like the non-risky investments now are the most risky investments once you view it through a Bitcoin lens. And we're looking at them like, what are you guys even doing? And they're looking at us like, you idiot millennial Zoomers out here. You guys don't know what you're doing. Like the adults are here in the room and we're like, guys, you guys are sniffing your own fart. You guys are lost in the sauce. Anyways, Luke, I saw you shaking your head. What's your thoughts on this?
No, it's hilarious. And I mean, the generational thing is a funny one. I feel old sort of being the millennial in the room when we've got some of the Generation Z, the Zoomers coming in and showing us how it's done, like really adopting Bitcoin early. But yeah, I mean, my take on this is that the stock market and things like that have just never made any sense to me because everyone talks about that you sell, right? Your investment goes down. Well, it doesn't matter if you don't sell, if you don't need to do anything with it. And I mean, just taking it into Bitcoin is the only asset like Micheal Saylor says that makes any sense at all. it's the only thing that I would buy and hold to store my value. The stock market is this pseudo store of value thing that's just come out of nowhere because fiat has invaded everything in the entire world since the creation of these well, fiat currency, but these stock markets as well. And Bitcoin is the thing that you just buy and hold and wait. And I mean, I have some sympathy for people who need to sell their Bitcoin because literally they don't have anything else. They're on zero. But if you're not 100% on Bitcoin, you're technically short Bitcoin a little bit. So I mean, you have to be cognizant when you're actually trading your Bitcoin for other things. And that just takes us into time preference. It all becomes about time preference. How long do you want to wait before you sell your Bitcoin? And what can you learn to do without in the meantime? So I love Saylor's take. And Bitcoin has just been one of these things that for me personally has just changed me all the ways and turned me into a much more low time preference individual. And hopefully that's how we can change the world by everyone adopting Bitcoin.
100%. This is why I love bringing you guys on. All right. Well, Knut, you do have, a little more grayish beard than us. So for the wise guy in the room, are us millennials and younger generation seeing things correctly? Or rather, on the flip side, what are the older generations missing? And coming from someone that has a little more experience than me, what's your thoughts on this, Knut?
I mean, Saylor is very eloquent and very good at talking to talking heads. But, those mainstream media people are still talking heads, and they're missing the big point here. And that is that Bitcoin was the discovery of resistance to replicability on the internet. So it's the only thing on a computer that cannot be copied because it's not on the computer. All the protocol is on computers. The software is on computers. The blockchain is on computers. But the sats live within us. So it's not only the best bet, it is the only bet. And it's a binary bet. Either it takes over the world or for some reason it doesn't. And then it goes to zero. But for 15 years, almost, it has been working like 99.99999% flawlessly. So this a bet on Bitcoin is a bet on humanity and a bet on yourself because you are your Satoshis. This is so much deeper than whatever these people who are talking about number go here or there or ETF do this and that. At the end of the day, they are a part of you, and if you don't bet on this, you're losing yourself, like literally.
Love it. A bet on Bitcoin is a bet on yourself. A bet on Bitcoin is a bet on humanity. I couldn't have said it better. This is why I love when you guys come on the show. All right, guys, let's get into the news so we can cover the rest of today's topics.
The Daily News.
I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Foundation Devices. It's self-custody done right. They built a premium grade hardware wallet called Passport right here in the US. It's fully open source and verifiable. It's the most intuitive Bitcoin wallet designed with a UX reminiscent of a simple feature phone. So you will know how to navigate it and use it the moment you pick it up. Get your Bitcoin off exchanges and into your own hands in just a few minutes. Experience the peace of mind that comes with taking ownership of your own keys. After a massive sellout during Bitcoin Miami 2023, the Passport is back in stock at foundationdevices.com. Bitcoin only, open source verifiable, completely air-gapped security model, gorgeous design craft, premium grade materials. If you're thinking about getting your Bitcoin off exchanges, this is the one for you. Check out the Passport link in the show notes below to learn more.
Do not think about taking your Bitcoin off an exchange. You have to take your Bitcoin off an exchange and get yourself a Passport by Foundation. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Scan the QR code, guys, and make sure you are using the promo code Simply, and you can get a discount. Who doesn't like discounts? All right, let's get into today's story. So as I was telling you in the beginning of the show, we are going to cover what Saylor is doing with the MicroStrategy strategy and then cover some other companies that are following his strategy. Man, too many strategies in a short time span. But the big news is for today, Marathon Holdings is following, a public Bitcoin miner is following the MicroStrategy strategy, which may come with some concerns, but it's obviously for the same game plan that we all think about constantly is, how do I get more sats? How do I get more sats under my control? Which everyone that understands Bitcoin understands the game. It is Hungry Hippo. It is Pac-Man with Bitcoin. You need to acquire as many Bitcoin as possible, accumulate as much as possible, sell your chairs right now, and make sure you are stacking sats at these cheap prices. All right. As I was saying, I'm going to just let Micheal Saylor explain what his strategy is and kind of, mirror what we were saying in the numbers about how people just don't understand what the play actually is. And me and Chris were actually talking about this, getting some of the MicroStrategy numbers of all the convertible notes that he's acquired, that it just it makes no sense to them. And we're over here just cheering them on like, yes, this is the best move ever. So let's hear Saylor explain this, and then we'll cover some of the actual numbers here.
Right. The conventional wisdom is when you sell stock, you dilute the shareholders. But in our case, the more stock we issue or the more money we raise, the more we accrete. And so hundreds of thousands of companies have assets on their balance sheet which are dilutive. And Bitcoin is the first major asset which is accretive. So we turn the entire treasury strategy upside down by actually accreting assets. Today we have $15 billion of Bitcoin on the balance sheet. And the operating company generates $75 million a year in cash flow. And the operating revenues are $500 million. So we made the balance sheet the primary part of the company instead of the P&L. Everybody else wants the balance sheet to go to zero or negative, and they want the P&L to be the primary part of the company.
Wow. Well, you can see that we couldn't have picked better guests on today's show than the guys writing the book of Inverse Clown World, when Saylor is literally saying the same thing. He's like, I inverted their whole financial models, the whole point of view of what to do with your company by adding Bitcoin on our balance sheet. And again, I was telling you these numbers. So me and Chris went over this morning. And Chris, maybe you can do some quick maths here on the total holdings of MicroStrategy. But all of MicroStrategy's redeemed convertible notes, I got them laid out for you here. So December 11th, 2020, they got 650 million. February 19th, 2021, 1.05 billion. March 11th, 2024, 800 million. March 19th, 2024, 603.75 million. And June 20th, 2024, 800 million, which, what is this, a little shy of $3 billion in convertible notes?
Shy of $4 billion.
A little, math is hard. Math is not my best strategy, but yeah, a little shy of $4 billion of Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Just absolutely incredible. When me and Chris did this numbers this morning, we were sitting here like every time we got a new number, like absolute Chad. Like imagine buying $1 billion of Bitcoin, just keep chipping away at having more Bitcoin. And really, while I was looking for some of these videos, I was reminded of Saylor, even himself being like, I don't own enough Bitcoin, and he's buying billions of dollars of Bitcoin. So you can start to see that the Bitcoin fever, if I could say that, where you need to acquire as many Bitcoin as possible, just really takes hold. And just doubling down on Saylor's strategy, that he posted this yesterday. 4 years ago today, MicroStrategy adopted Bitcoin as its primary treasury reserve asset. Since then, Masters outperformed 499 of 500 stocks in the S&P 500. And this chart right here has been making the round on corporate press, on all of Twitter. And you can just see by literally adding Bitcoin to their asset balance sheet, MicroStrategy is outperforming everyone basically. And more people are catching note to this. Of course, we saw this and we covered this in the past. Metaplanet, Japanese public company, bought Bitcoin. Their first one was 6.5 million. And then I did the numbers over here. They are obviously not playing the same field as MicroStrategy as Micheal Saylor, but they have also done the convertible note strategy. They have roughly around $10.6 million right now going into Bitcoin. They did just acquire a $1 billion yen loan to buy more Bitcoin, which is, 6.8 million. So obviously they're not on the Micheal Saylor, scale, but the signal is catching on and more people are waking up to that very idea. If you just add Bitcoin to your balance sheet, you're going to increase the power and the price of your company and make sure that you stay competitive. And on that note, this morning, as we were covering, Marathon Holdings, Marathon announced its proposed private offering of $200 million of convertible senior notes. So going into the press release a little bit, they announced they're going to do the MicroStrategy strategy. And just going in here a little bit, where's it at? A global leader in leveraging digital asset compute to support the energy transformation, Marathon announced that it intends to offer, subject to market conditions and other factors, $200 million aggregate principal amount of convertible senior notes due 2031 in a private offering to persons reasonably believed to be qualified institutional buyers. So obviously this isn't open for you and I here, but it just goes to show that that strategy is catching on, and more people are waking up to this idea that, wait, I might have an infinite money glitch. I can just, take out debt on my company and buy more Bitcoin with it. Like, that sounds absolutely incredible to me. I wish we could do that here at Simply Bitcoin. That'd be great. And not only that, adding that to the fact that we've seen the army of institutional advisors. We covered this last week. Morgan Stanley telling its wealth advisors they can pitch Bitcoin ETFs. Like, we are seeing that the quote unquote smart money, which we can kind of argue that they aren't as smart as they think they are, because if we got in Bitcoin before them, how smart are they? Of course, we can caveat that with this idea that Wall Street, it moves a little slower. There's a lot of more obstacles and hula hoops to go through before they're able to just go full bull-tarded into Bitcoin. But I think by the end of the year, it is going to be an incredible amount of inflows into the Bitcoin ETFs and, of course, the Bitcoin space in general. And then touching on that a little bit, a news story that kind of went under the radar a little while ago was that now Wells Fargo is also offering spot Bitcoin ETFs to their clients. I'm sure it's only going to be to high net worth individuals. What was the Morgan Stanley one where it's like only people with high risk thresholds would be allowed to go into it? But this just further proves that the biggest institutions in the world are looking into Bitcoin. They want some Bitcoin exposure. And as much as us Bitcoiners are like, I'm all about the little man getting into Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's the real Occupy Wall Street. Like, I don't want politicians talking about Bitcoin. It just goes to show that the signal is spreading. More people are waking up to Bitcoin. And I think by Q4 of this year, there's going to be an incredible price movement and inflows and attention into Bitcoin once we kind of get out of this crab market, which we've been in. We're all feeling the pain here, but it's getting out there, guys. People are waking up to this Bitcoin thing. We're out here just playing with our Bitcoins, like Trump was saying, and now we have the biggest asset managers in the world also wanting to play with their Bitcoins. It feels so good being a Bitcoiner. Absolutely incredible. But Chris, you do want to chime in here. You wanted to add a little bit on this before I pass it around to the round table.
Yeah, so one quick thing. So Opti and I were only saying the convertible debt notes, so just shy of $4 billion, but that also doesn't account for the price appreciation that they've had on their balance sheet at this time. So it's much, much higher. I mean, last time I checked, is around like $15 billion worth of Bitcoin on their balance sheet, just appreciating in fiat terms. And then that also doesn't account for the quarterly buys that Micheal Saylor was talking about, taking cash flow from his business and just sweeping it directly into Bitcoin, not offering debt or, other type of instruments in order to acquire more Bitcoin. So he has much, much more than just the $4 billion that we were talking about of convertible debt notes.
Yeah, exactly. That's just him. That's just the $4 billion of infinite money glitch moves right there. It's just absolutely nuts. Absolutely nuts. But let me pass it over to Knut first. Knut, what's your thoughts on Marathon doing the MicroStrategy strategy, or rather maybe the MicroStrategy strategy catching on and potentially seeing an insane FOMO at the end of this year?
Yeah, I like that Marathon has a lot of Bitcoin, because that might prevent them from mining on blocks with malicious transactions in them in the future, and stop doing the spam bullshit that makes it harder for people to run their own nodes in the long run. So that's positive, I guess. On Micheal and MicroStrategy's strategy, this is what the man who later became the richest man in Germany did during the hyperinflation era of the Weimar Republic. The winner of that race took on as much debt as he could in the failing currency and bought hard assets. And that's exactly what MicroStrategy is doing. So I think it's a genius plan. It's a ballsy plan. And by the way, when Trump says play with your Bitcoin, he's literally saying, since you are your Bitcoins, he's literally telling you to play with your balls, because having Bitcoin takes balls. So yeah, that's my 2 sets, or 2 balls, or two sets.
Love it. Love it. Oh man, that's so good. I mean, also to your point, seriously a little bit, in the fiat world, the traditional financial world that we live in, you are incentivized to take on more and more debt so that you can try to get ahead, because everyone knows that basically debt is money now. So the more debt you can acquire and put into hard assets, the better off you will be in the world. And coming from someone that like literally would just save money under my mattress, I've always been averse to having debt. And I didn't understand the fiat game until I understood Bitcoin. And I'm like, oh, wait, they are taking debt out on purpose so that they can buy assets. Like, I wish I would have learned this in high school. That would have been a way better learning curriculum than whatever I learned in high school. But hey, they don't want you to know these secrets out there on Wall Street, but now you do. Anyways, Luke, what's your thoughts on this?
Man, yeah, the metaphors. Knut keeps coming up with new metaphors. It's fantastic. But on the marathon situation specifically, yeah, I mean, anyone adopting this particular strategy is going to win as long as they don't crash and burn their business otherwise. But the thing is here, mining is a really difficult business, and it's decentralized by nature because the energy is decentralized and you need to get at the energy. And Marathon is interesting because they run their own pool. But the pool situation is actually where mining is centralized, right? Where there are only a certain number of pools that can mine economically, where if you attach yourself to this pool, that you might actually have a chance of finding some blocks. And mining centralization is honestly one of these only things that personally that I think really needs to get fixed one way or another. And Marathon going and really taking this strategy to try and get bigger and beat the market. Hopefully it encourages some other miners to also do the same thing, because I personally don't want to see any one miner get too big of a stake, because that's just going to be start to be a threat to Bitcoin. But the other solution is to mine with pools that let you select your own template and let you have control of what you're actually mining. Otherwise, you're just a hash salesman effectively. But Marathon isn't really in that situation because they actually are the pool themselves. So it's an interesting situation. Mining is a fascinating industry.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, also, like, as Marathon being a Bitcoin mining, there's significantly more risk involved in them doing that strategy versus just Saylor doing the strategy with MicroStrategy. So it's going to be very interesting to see if other miners follow the same suit or what actually happens to their company. Obviously, as Bitcoiners, we don't like to see Bitcoin companies explode, but it's definitely a ballsy move. But if the price starts running, I'm sure they're going to be very happy about this. But Knut, you wanted to chime in on this?
Yeah, Bitcoin has only one enemy, and that is complacency. If we become too complacent, then attackers might find some kind of vector to attack it. The spam is one. Attacking layer 2s and on and off ramps is another one. And we need to stay vigilant. We need to be the people we were back in 2017 when we told the big blockers to basically go F themselves, because that kind of resilience is what keeps Bitcoin alive. And if we lose that, we might lose the entire thing. Now, having said that, I don't think there's a risk of that, because information moves faster than almost anything else. So we just need to get the message out to as many people as possible. And if we do, and if Bitcoin stays decentralized and secure, then we do not need to worry about what any politician says about it, or any large corporation, or anyone else for that matter. I mean, from a certain perspective, it's even better to have a anti-Bitcoin politician in charge, because that prevents people from being complacent. That will force people to run their own nodes and so make sure that they secure their privacy and whatnot. So it's a double-edged sword when politicians start talking about Bitcoin, especially someone with as large of a following as former U.S. president. Yeah.
Totally agree. And man, I wanted to chime in on something you said, but I'm blanking on it right now because so many moving parts. So I'm just going to move into the culture here with you guys, and we'll talk about your guys' project, because I completely brain farted on what I wanted to add on top of that. But anyways, here we go. Let's get into the culture.
The Daily Culture.
All right, you know the deal, boys and girls. We got to pay the bills. So Get on the Orange Pill app. As we've been covering on the show, as we constantly cover on this show, Bitcoiners are going to be, in my opinion, my humble opinion, some of the most influential people in the world. So you want to build, or rather take your cyberspace relationships into meat space and build local communities, stack friends who stack sats. Make sure you go to orangepillapp.com, get on there, connect with other Bitcoiners. Maybe even if you're the sole crazy Bitcoiner in your community, start a Bitcoin meetup, get more people involved around you so that we can actually build, the fabled Bitcoin circular economy, but really solidify these relationships in real life. That's the most rewarding aspect of my Bitcoin journey, is the friends I made along the way. I know we joke about it, if Bitcoin never hits all-time high again, the real gains were the friends we made along the way. That's trolling. All right, let's move into what you guys are working on over at the previously named Freedom Footprint Show. So we'll just jump right into that. Let's just jump right into what was the thoughts behind the rebrand. What made you change the name from Freedom Footprint Show to the Bitcoin Infinity Show? I don't know, Luke or Knut, who wants to take this one?
I'd just like to comment on the yield is the friends you make along the way, and then give it to Luke, because it is absolutely 100% true, since you are your Satoshis, that the yield is the friends you make along the way. So make sure you befriend a lot of Bitcoiners. There are no better friends to have in the world.
100%. Okay, Luke, then why did you guys rebrand?
Yeah, you got it. So the original term freedom footprint came from a quote from Knut's book, Everything Divided by 21 Million, which you'll see behind me to that side. That book is a classic. If you've read it, if you haven't read it, recommend checking it out. The thing was, the idea was that the freedom footprint is Bitcoin emits freedom dioxide, and we want you to emit as much freedom dioxide and grow your freedom footprint as large as possible. And so we were really focusing on the freedom angle for the first kind of year and a half of our show's run. But then eventually we decided that this isn't really encompassing exactly what we are together. Bitcoin Infinity is this whole big thing. Again, Knut came up with the meme. I've been working with him for the last 2 years now, and it's been fantastic. And just exploring the infinite potential of Bitcoin. That's the idea of the Bitcoin Infinity meme, everything divided by 21 million. And that's what we're really leaning into. We've always been a Bitcoin show, a Bitcoin organization, and I'll get to that just in a second here. But the idea here is that we're wanting to explore and expand conversations with all facets of the Bitcoin world, and freedom is still a big focus. We have a chapter in our new book, Bitcoin: The Inverse of Clown World, called Freedom Footprint, and it explores this topic much more deeply. And we're still going to be focused on that for sure. But Bitcoin Infinity is a larger, more encompassing thing. And basically, you can find everything we do now under the Bitcoin Infinity brand. And that's really just to also say is that we've turned this into now essentially we've written this new book, and we're publishing it together. So to the extent that we're self-publishing, but we started up our own new website, and we accept Bitcoin there, and you'll be able to find all of Knut's books on there, translations, merchandise, all this stuff. So we've started to turn this into basically this is Bitcoin Infinity Inc., for lack of a better term.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay. One of my favorite memes, Knut, is the Infinity divided by 21 million. I think it's one of the stronger memes that has came out of Bitcoin in the last couple of years. But we did get a good question here. So I am going to put you on the spot here, Knut, because he always trolls us about, we talk about the Bitcoin price, sats per dollar every single day. And he's like, no, you're wrong. It's infinity per sat. So the question for you, Knut, is if Bitcoin is going to be infinity per sat one day, doesn't that mean it's already infinity per sat today?
That's up to you and how you value it, because valuations are subjective. So Bitcoin's price is a reflection of supply and demand. And I mean, your demand for it, you decide that yourself. What you don't decide is the supply, which is limited. And it's the first time that we had a supply and demand curve that looks like this, where the supply is totally finite, and then demand can go up and down temporarily. But as time passes, demand will inevitably go up, especially since people will lose satoshis and so on. So supply will decrease over time, probably, if people aren't careful. So yeah, that's the infinity meme. It comes from a sentence in an article I wrote a long time ago that was actually published, I realized in hindsight, on the 21st of August 2020.
Wow.
Like, how incredible is that? There are no coincidences, right? And the sentence was, imagine everything there is and everything there ever will be divided by 21 million. So I never said infinity, I said everything. So it's everything that we humans can come up with, goods and services, all of them. The potential is there. There are still some technical issues and whatnot to solve, but the point is the potential of this thing, and to give people a different viewpoint instead of looking at dollar price, and realize that they decide the value of their satoshis. And if you realize what this thing is, you are going to value them higher than everything else, basically. And all ties into us being the satoshis. That means you value your fellow man or your fellow Bitcoiner, your fellow person, he, she, or whatever gender they may be. You hold them in higher regard. It's a very human thing like that, because it's literally appreciating people more than stuff. At the end of the day, that's what this is all about in my mind.
Love it. Love it. Chris, you wanted to pop in here?
Yeah, no, I think that was a great thing what Knut was saying, kind of like infinity divided by everything, or infinity divided by per sat. But like, I know we always joke and say like, what happens if Bitcoin goes to 1 cent per Bitcoin? Everyone's like, oh, well, I set my limit order to 1 cent per Bitcoin. And then Opti's like, I set it to 2 cents per Bitcoin. Well, it's basically the inverse. If the four of us, Luke, Knut, Opti, and myself, don't sell our Bitcoin for any amount of fiat. You can give us all the fiat in the world, all the Zimbabwe dollars, all the euros, all the yen, every currency in the world, and we don't sell it for that, we value it for other things, then technically it's already set at infinity divided by per sat is the same thing as people saying they've set the floor of their, they'll buy all the Bitcoin if it goes to 1 cent per Bitcoin or 2 cents per Bitcoin. So it's kind of the inverse of it. And obviously, the price is set in the margin. So obviously we saw over the weekend, all these traders get liquidated. They're trying to short Bitcoin as it crashed, and then they got liquidated trying to long Bitcoin, trying to short it still to go lower, and then it went higher and it rebounded back to its price. So obviously the price that you see is set at the margin of everywhere else. But, if you're never going to sell your Bitcoin for any fiat price, then it doesn't matter. And you already are operating at infinity over per sat versus, the margin of like, hey, we'll buy all the Bitcoin if it goes low enough in fiat terms.
Love it. Love it. Okay, Knut, jump in again.
Yeah, just shortly there, like a good visualization for how the Bitcoin price works that I have in my head is a stairway to heaven. And it's a stairway that's 50 meters wide in the beginning. And then after 4 years worth of steps up to heaven, it halves into 25-meter wide staircase. And then it's a 12.5 and so on and so forth. And this represents the halvings. And you have a crowd of people trying to get up the stairs. And occasionally there's a runner that's ballsy and walks up a lot of stairs, and then he gets cold feet and he wants to get down again, but he can't get all the way down because there's a crowd of people stopping him from reaching the bottom of the stairway. So it's literally a stairway to heaven, right? Like that.
Love it. Love it. Great meme. Great meme. All right. I do want to transition a little bit so that we can plug your guys' new book, The Inverse of Clown World. But before I do that, I think a good way to frame this is, I'm pretty sure this was the first episode you guys dropped as the Bitcoin Infinity show. Knut, you said something that I just absolutely love, and I couldn't agree more. But you framed it in this idea of Bitcoin is the greatest noise removal tool we've ever had. So can you elaborate? What does that mean? What does noise removal tool mean?
Yeah, there's a lot of talk in the Bitcoin space about finding the signal in the noise. And Bitcoin itself is just maths and code and stuff. So it's not really the signal, but it is the greatest noise removal tool ever created, because all the tools, if you think deep about tools and technologies, they all have the same single purpose, and that is to save someone time somewhere. And since money is the thing that you can exchange for literally everything else, the best form of money becomes the best tool ever created. And when money is in your head and is you and is incorruptible and a total representation of absolute truth, and is decentralized and secure and censorship resistant and teleportable and all these nice things on top of that, then that is by definition the best tool ever invented and the best time-saving tool. And when you free up time, you have time to find yourself. You have time to find your purpose, your signal. Because I think the meaning of life is different to different people. As a freedom lover, I embrace that, and I think everyone should go and live their own lives and find their own truths and find their own. Maybe not their own truths, because I do believe in objective truth, but find their own passions. And Bitcoin allows for that if you use it properly, which is acquire them, accept them for your goods and services, and don't spend them. It's as easy as that.
Totally agree. Totally agree. Well, I knew that question was going to tee up the inverse of Clown World perfectly, because I couldn't have summed it up better. But let's do the hard shell of the inverse of Clown World. So you guys told me, I was running this down with Luke earlier, and we couldn't have picked a better date for you guys to come on. You're about to drop the inverse of Clown World publicly for everyone. So let's talk about that before we wrap up today's show. There we go. Inverse of Clown World.
I'm just going to start off by saying, if you liked everything divided by 21 million, there's a definition. Definite. What's the word, Luke? Definitive.
definitive.
Definitive version of that now. That's why it has this new cover that you see behind Luke there. But the inverse of Clown World is the spiritual follow-up to that book, and in my opinion. Recency bias here, I know, but I think it's the best book I've written so far, and much of that is because of Luke's fantastic contributions, and that we co-wrote the thing, and we've really put in the work to make it the best we could. And I think if there's one Bitcoin book you should read this year, it's probably this one, and I'm proud to say that. So you'll find pre-order it at bitcoininfinitystore.com. And don't forget, 9 days from now, you know what happens 9 days from now? We release the book and we celebrate Bitcoin Infinity Day. So I see all you beautiful commenters here. Tell me in the comment section, please, how are you going to celebrate the infinite potential of Bitcoin this year? How are you going to celebrate Infinity Day, people? We know how we are going to celebrate it. We're going to throw a party in Riga to kick off the Baltic Honey Badger conference and the Nostr Riga conference that Jack is putting on over there. And we're going to have a swell time. Uncle Rockstar is involved, and we're going to have a little ceremony and all sorts of stuff. We're going to have 3 types of drinks, a blue one, an orange one, and a purple one. I'm spilling the beans here, I know, Luke, so maybe you should take over and steal the book instead.
yeah, Luke. Okay, maybe break down just the title of the inverse of Clown World. What does that even mean for someone that maybe has no idea even what Clown World is? Has no just for the first time hearing this signal. What does that title mean? The inverse of Clown World.
You've got it. Well, Clown World is the world we're living in today. It is the world in the midst of fiat. It's fiat run amok. It's woke. It's everything going crazy. In the book, we go into the first few chapters are all digging into what's playing into Clown World and the really broken incentives that come out of Clown World. A lot of the reasons that people behave the way they do, it's just because the system is set up the way it is. Right. And that's Clown World. And so, I mean, there's examples everywhere. There's Harvard administrators not being able to disavow anti-Semitism or then finding out that they're plagiarizing absolutely everything. It's the situation going on in the UK right now where speech is literally being getting prison sentences. It's 1984, 40 years too late, basically. Clown World is all of that and more. It's the world we currently live in. I can't imagine that anyone listening to this show it doesn't have some idea of how they're currently affected by clown world at the moment. And the inverse of that, well, this is a math thing. We're leaning into kind of the equation, everything divided by 21 million. Well, the inverse of clown world. So to invert something is to undo it. It's to undo the operation, right? And so our thesis is that Bitcoin is really the thing that can undo all of the damage that clown world has done. There are of course many other things. Taking responsibility for yourself is essentially the TLDR of what the book is. So it's not just Bitcoin. We are our Bitcoins, like Knut alluded to, right? But the solution is actually to take responsibility for yourself and what you can do in the world, make yourself the best person possible, expand your freedom footprint as much as possible, and then go forward into the new world. And hopefully everything is improving one step at a time, one person at a time.
100%. I think if people have watched this show, they know clown world, because that's like, we wouldn't have a job if we weren't living in clown world right now. Like, we wouldn't have things to talk about, because it's very clear as a Bitcoiner. I say it all the time. Once you are able to look through the Bitcoin lens, or you have, the Bitcoin fundamentals, it does flip everything on its head. And you realize a lot of the stuff you're hearing is either outright lies or it's just bad and flawed thinking. And once you're able to kind of settle down, look through the world through a correct lens, which I would argue Bitcoin, that's why it's so successful, because it does play into natural law and how nature actually works. And that's why it's the best money in the world. You're able to look at the world correctly, and you don't fall for all of the, misbehavior and all of the lies. They're like, no, they're lying to me. This is messed up. This makes no sense to me as a Bitcoin, as a thinking person, as the last Mohicans of the thinking people out here. You can see the world clearly. But anyways, Knut, you want to jump in on this?
Yeah, I just echo everything you said.
Let's go. All right. So actually, one last thing before I wrap up today's show, because I think it's going to really, put a bow tie on this. I saw, Luke, you were on Breedlove's show the other day, and I really love the idea of the purpose of stories and how important it is to share, in my opinion, one of the best stories ever told, AKA Bitcoin. And this is all we as Bitcoiners, as content creators are really doing, is just trying to explain this story of Bitcoin and what it's done for us and the story of humanity moving forward. So what is the importance of stories, Luke? And then I'm going to pass it to Knut before we wrap this up, because he's a great storyteller as well. So Luke, what is this idea about?
Yeah, thanks, Opti. The series that I was just on with Breedlove, that was a fantastic time. 11 episodes of us just absolutely nerding out about the purpose of stories. And what I found, the original thing that got me down all of the rabbit holes, just starting to figure out the world, was understanding stories. What do stories actually tell us? And the thing is, the deepest stories in the world, whether that's the Bible, whether that's mythological stories like Zeus or Odin or things like that, or it's Eastern mythology, stuff like that. It all comes down to the deepest wisdom that we've ever had in society, and how that trickles down throughout the ages to really distill these things into something meaningful. But the thing is, you have to know the language. You have to know what's being said in these stories. Usually this stuff is written in language that's difficult to understand, or maybe it's using metaphors that are a little hard to follow. And so the thing is, if you learn to understand what stories are actually saying, you can get a blueprint to actually be a good person in the world. And I do believe that there is such a thing as moral right and wrong, but it's not on the level of something necessarily cosmic. It's more like a case of, this is what you should do because it's going to get you success more likely than not. It's going to bring you better status in your society. It's going to be better off for everyone in your society. And so when I personally, I'm very much, since going down the rabbit hole, I've gone as anarcho-capitalist as they come, basically dismantle the system and build it anew with as much freedom as possible. But I do also believe that there is a system of moral guidelines that does come down through these ancient stories, and ways of breaking those down is basically how I've been doing that. But the funny thing is how Bitcoin really, really relates to all of this. Bitcoin is akin to a shamanic journey where you completely discard the identity that you once had. This is the fiat world, but you go down into the depths of hell and you come out born again. You come out absolutely born again with this new knowledge of Bitcoin. and you come out a better person. And it's just amazing. And all of the potential there. One of the latest episodes in that series, we went into how Bitcoin is actually akin to the Philosopher's Stone from alchemy. Bitcoin is actually the highest thing that the alchemists for 1,000 years were trying to conceive of. Bitcoin has all of those properties. It's better than gold. It's better than any other form of money, any form of store of value. It's the best there ever has been, and it's a tool to become better people, better civilization. What can I say? That's the power of stories to me in a nutshell.
Bars. Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. All right, Knut, you wanna tack on that, or did Luke just elaborate perfectly on that?
Well, he has a slightly different perspective than I have, and I think that's part of why we function so well together. Because I like to view ethics from a more strict Hoppian argumentation ethics perspective, and the Hoppe argues that by engaging in argumentation, you implicitly agree to a rule set that does not allow for theft in the end. Because let me lay that out. That is, if you're arguing with someone and you come to some sort of a conclusion, if you don't respect that conclusion but steal from the other guy anyway, or violate their property, or beat them up or whatever, then the argument wasn't really an argument. It was just mockery on part of the bully. And this is what governments and tax authorities and central banks are doing all the time. They are, you can clearly prove that what they're doing is not maximizing outcomes for as many people as possible, because free markets do that. And you can logically deduct your way to realizing that is the case. So I think you can logically deduct your way to don't steal as a good principle to live by. And when you live by don't steal, and when you like preach that to others or whatever, or try to spread that message, I do believe that you actually end up with a better world. And Bitcoin is the very embodiment of don't steal, because it's can't steal. It's just, at the end of the day, it's just an agreement on a fixed set of rules, right? Like the rules of chess or whatever. And the reason we agree on these specific rules that Bitcoin is, the rules of Bitcoin, is because they are set up in such a way that they are more expensive to break. That it's more expensive to break the rules than to just follow them. And that's why we agree on this specific rule set. And what that allows for is absolutely sound money, like absolutely finite money that we store in our heads, allowing us to become our wishes and purchasing power, allowing us to become the sum of our efforts. And that's just the greatest unlocker of human potential ever discovered, in my opinion.
Let's go. I love that. Bitcoin is can't steal technology. I absolutely love it. Okay, wrapping up the show, guys. Let's do one last plug for where people can get the Inverse of Clown World, and when does it get released to the public?
Yeah, so you can get it at bitcoininfinitystore.com. Sorry, Knut. bitcoininfinitystore.com. And it is also on Amazon, but you can pre-order it now. We accept Bitcoin from Bitcoin Infinity Store, and you can also get the definitive version of Bitcoin, the Inverse of Clown World. There from that store, you can get that now, plus all of our merch, which includes the t-shirts we're wearing and a few other things. And we'll be adding more stuff to the store, so stay tuned.
Yeah. We also accept government cockbucks for now, if you prefer to pay by but yeah, it will be released on, can you guess it? Bitcoin Infinity Day, the 21st of August. So 9 days now, and then you can get your hands on the book. And if you get your hands on the book, you'll also get your hands on your sats, which is your balls. Oh, I mean, you'll get your hands in a good place. And you'll be in a good place.
Love it. All right, guys. Well, thanks for coming on the show today. Incredible conversation. Really enjoyed it. Let me pull you behind the scenes so I can wrap this up. So hang out for a second as I end this show. All right, guys. That was today's show. Today is Monday, August 12th. This was episode 1051. And this was Simply Bitcoin. If you think we provided you value, if you like what we're doing here, smash the like button, share this content, subscribe so you know when we go live. Actually, one last thing. I did miss a super chat. So shouts out to Vake. Shouts out to my boy Vake for the $10 you super chatted us. And this was earlier in the show. And he goes, I've seen Opti at a Chinese buffet before. Trust me, he knows a lot about hungry hippos. Yes, your boy can eat. Your boy likes to eat. Okay, guys. Well, we'll be back tomorrow, same time as always, 12:15 p.m. Eastern time, Monday through Friday. We're always live. Also, we do have a very special IRL with David Bailey coming out tonight. I believe that's going to be 5 p.m. Eastern time, but you already know the deal, guys. We will be back tomorrow. So I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Get outside, touch some grass, get a workout in, eat some good food. This is the way. This is how you ensure, as Knut was saying, that you become the best version of yourselves, that you actually become those sats that you are holding. On that note, boys and girls, it's your boy Opti, and I will see you tomorrow.
It was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, on a mission to enable independence.